Hello there. Thank you for clicking on this compilation video. Compilation, is that how you say it? Compilation, no, no, that's correct. Compilation video. Sometimes with the day job and everything else, it's really difficult to try to keep up a video per week. Plus, we're going to revisit in this particular compilation episode the Chicken Hawk Hawkeye. Never mind what you see there. We're not doing that today. But we're going to get back into the Chicken Hawk Polaris Hawkeye. We're going to do the full series. It's like 4 videos. I got to warn you, the first couple, they're pretty rough. That's when I first started this channel and didn't know how to talk to a camera. I still don't know how to talk to a camera, but I really didn't know how to talk to a camera. And I think I was recording most of it on a camera that wouldn't even focus. Audio was horrible. The English is, well, shocking today. Anyway, just put it on, let it run in the background. If you're in the shop, let it play in the shop. We did some things to it. We introduced it to y'all, did a couple of things to it, and then we went ahead and sent it on down the road. But hope you all enjoy it. And again, thank you for hanging out with me. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Good Germs Off-Road Adventures, and welcome back to the shop. Today, we're going to take a look at probably one of the most unusual little four-wheel drive quads, ATVs, four-wheelers, whatever. One of the most unusual little four-wheel drive quads that Polaris has ever made. We're going to be looking at the Chicken Hawk Polaris Hawkeye. But first, we got to find it. It's somewhere in the back there, and we got to dig it out. So we're going to go ahead and do that. It's back here somewhere. It's been hiding back there for a while. Yep. And here he is. But, he's been sitting in that back corner, going on about 10 months now. Yeah. So we're going to take it outside and kind of blow some of the dust off this before we get into it. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get this thing cleaned up a little bit. All right, well, that cleaned up quite nice. Let's go ahead and push him back in the garage so we can have a better look at it. Yep. And there we go. All clean and ready for a review. So what is a Polaris Hawkeye? Without getting too technical, this is a Polaris Hawkeye. So think of the Polaris Hawkeye as the sportsman's younger brother or sister, whichever way you prefer it. The Hawkeye does share quite a few features with the Sportsman. First is the four-wheel drive system. It's pretty much the same as you get on the Sportsman, the on-demand four-wheel drive system. With the switch, you can turn it off, and it works just as well on this machine as it does, on a Sportsman. You get the same kind of storage rack up here in the front, which won't open because it's hitting the handlebars, but you get what I'm saying. You get, what else? Oh, independent rear suspension. This is a pretty small quad. It's not even 4 feet wide. It's significantly lighter than a full-size Sportsman at about 520 pounds dry weight. So to have independent rear suspension on a unit like this it's pretty neat. It rides decent for a unit for a quad that its size compared to some of the other comparables, like I guess the closest thing to this size-wise is probably the Honda, I don't even know what it's called, Rancher. I think the little Honda Rancher 300 and something cc's, but solid rear axle, no four-wheel drive. Kawasaki has another unit, I forget what it's called, also not four-wheel drive. I think it's about 300 or so cc's. Suzuki has their Ozark 250, a little bit smaller engine, no independent rear suspension, and no four-wheel drive. So really, the Hawkeye was kind of in a class all to its own with its size and having four-wheel drive and independent rear suspension. Nobody else did that. So I guess we'll just start off now. We'll walk around the unit and take a look at it. So we'll just start at the front of the machine here, and we'll just start at the bottom. And you can see the front suspension design. It's kind of borrowed from the Sportsman's, but instead of the big cast piece on the struts right here, you can see it's more of a steel piece, but these have been pretty sturdy. I know there was a recall for the very first few 2006 models for the hub carrier, but this was made later in the year, so the recall didn't apply, thankfully. You can see they were nice enough to give us some A-arm guards, and we don't have any torn boots yet. Never replaced the boots on this. You can see in the back there, nestled in the frame, you can see the front drive unit. It's pretty similar to the bigger Sportsman models. I'm not sure if it's as robust, but we've never had an issue with this four-wheel drive system. And you can see the hydraulic lines and disc brake calipers down inside there. Coming up, you can see the nice big bumper that we've added to this. And actually, we only added this bumper about 1.5 years ago. I was able to find it on the eBay website and a pretty good price and got it shipped to me. It was brand new, a little bit scuffed up. Some of that was from when I bought it, but some of it may or may not have, been from the trail. You can see the Harbor Freight road shock light we've attached there. But the headlights you can also see. Now, these headlights don't have a high and a low beam. It's just literally on and off. This one is angled a little bit more up. That one is angled a little bit more at the ground. So you kind of get your high and low beam all in one. It's one of the more strange designs I've ever seen. And then on up to your front rack storage box. And since we're up here, we'll go ahead and open it. But before we do that, we went ahead and added a little place to plug in our battery tender. I like to keep my batteries charged up so that way they don't go flat when they sit. Especially with this unit, it sits quite a bit. Opening up the front storage, just like you would see on most Sportsman models. You've got your storage. It's a little smaller, but for, honestly, a quad this small, it's not bad. We've got a few tools in here, some bungee cords. And the bungee cords are to hold the rack down if this thing's ever on an open trailer, because for some reason it likes to just come loose. The little dials there will come loose and this will start flapping in the wind. So the bungee cords will hold it down while it's on a trailer. And of course your battery right here at the top where it's easily serviceable. Of course, I believe I covered this when we looked at Ruby. We added the Moose little fender bag here. Love these things. Here you can get a good look at the footwells. They're a little bit different design, more open and a little bit more aggressive. I kind of like them. Up top, your typical Polaris stuff, the brake. your normal switch pod, except like I mentioned, the headlights, there's no high beam or low beam. You just have on and off. You know, you've got your choke. The switch is for the road shock lights that we added. Of course, your key switch and the thumb throttle and the all-wheel drive selector switch, which is on for some reason. Have no idea why that's on. All right. Coming around, let's check out the rear of the unit here. You've got a nice big sticker that says Polaris on the back. Okay. And here you can get a look at the rear suspension. Good amount of ground clearance with these independent suspension units. A decent ride. That sway bar you see right there, and it attaches over there. A sway bar is actually quite stiff. It doesn't allow for a lot of sway, but I'll be honest, with this machine, it's actually pretty good because it's so narrow and still almost as tall as a regular Sportsman, it would probably it would want to fall over in a turn. You do get a hitch mount, just like everything else, little 1 1/4 hitch. That's pretty good. Adjustable rear shocks, just like you normally see, and these are set to the all the way soft mode because I believe these shocks are shared with the Sportsman, and this quad just doesn't weigh as much. You get your little brake light. We've got a added grab bar here. This was, this is a Polaris part, but it was an add-on that I found on eBay, super cheap, like 20 bucks, and I went ahead and bolted that on. And then coming around, to the right side, you've got some pretty good scratches there. And you've got a seat right there. And you have your gear selector. And this gear selector only has high, neutral, reverse. You've got no low range and no park. The park would have been nice. Low range would have really been nice. So let's talk about the tires. This is a pretty good angle. You can see these tires are actually really nice. These are from the Amazon website. And there's a very specific reason why they came from the Amazon website. And I'll come back to that in a minute. But first, check out the rim. Look how brand new that rim is. Yeah, I know. It's pretty banged up. So what Polaris did with the Hawkeye here, they used the 12-inch rim, the same size rim that you would see on a full-size Sportsman. That way it could clear the disc brake rotors in the front and the one in the rear. However, with the size of the machine here, which again, it's not a very big machine, with the size of the machine here, they opted to put 22-inch tall tires on a 12-inch rim. Well, that doesn't leave a lot of rubber. And also the front rim is quite a bit wider than the front tire is. So it just, got the snot beat out of it riding out in the desert with all the rocks. Polaris did have a limited edition or a special edition of this model of some sort where they did offer 23-inch tires. But with this little engine and this transmission that they've come up with for this, I can't imagine that would have been fun to ride. I mean, at 22-inch tires, it doesn't have much in the way of power. I couldn't imagine if you put taller tires on it, how much slower it would probably be. So the original tires that came with this machine were a Maxxis, again, 22-inch tires, with a really poor tread design that did not have a lot of actual tread on it. They lasted a long time, and some of that is because this rig really doesn't make enough power to spin the wheels a whole lot. I mean, the four-wheel drive is great when you're climbing hills, but that's really the only time you need it is when you're going up a really steep hill. But eventually we did swap out those tires, and we opted to put these on from the Amazon website. The biggest reason for that is because try to go onto the internet and try to find 22-inch tires that would fit on a 12-inch rim. You're not going to find a full set. You might find some fronts, but you're not going to find the rears. At least I couldn't find them. But on the Amazon, they had this brand, the Sunf SUNF brand. And they've been pretty good. They're reasonably priced. I think the whole set cost barely over 200 bucks, which is super cheap for tires. The tread design is really aggressive. It actually is they're quite good. Did have a quality issue. I believe it was this one. I ended up taking these to a tire shop to have them mounted, and immediately this one was leaking air, and you would think it would be from that pretty good bend in the rim, but it actually wasn't. There was a hole in the tire. So they went ahead and they were nice and they patched it for free. Nice local shop. So they patched the tire and they've been fine since. Now these tires have only been on it for, I don't know, a year and a half. I think it's only got a few weekends of riding on them, so they're still pretty new, as you can tell. Let's go ahead and get into some of the finer nitty-gritty details of the machine, and we'll just start with what's under the seat here. So just like we saw in Ruby Sue, taking the seat off is pretty easy. Just grab that and up it goes. And there's just not a lot to see here. There's a lot of dust. That's to be expected. You've got your air filter down here, and just like in Ruby Sue and both of the 570s, we do have a uni filter in the box here. I do have a little strap here, and I don't know why, but there's a strap. It's a little place you could keep a thing or two. And that's about it. You know, the carburetor's buried up under the gas tank. Almost impossible to get to. Honestly, you have to take the entire rear fender off to get that carburetor out. And that's about it. Not a lot to see under here. Let's just put the seat back on and just move on. You can see here we have our backup pull starter right there. And this was something you could see on pretty much all of the older Polarises. Polaris's, whatever the plural of Polarises is. And then, of course, looking down here, you have your foot brake pedal, which again, just like any other Polaris, this only operates the rear brake. So here you can get a decent view of the air-cooled cylinder. But something else Polaris did to try to keep this cool is they also put an oil. They put an, whoops, that was my hand. They put an oil cooler here, right at the base where the oil filter goes. So this oil cooler, I'm only assuming, does a pretty good job at help keeping the thing cool. So I mentioned the clutch design on these machines being a little different from the full-size Sportsmans, and right away you can see you've got this big aluminum clutch cover instead of the plastic one. So the clutches in the bigger Sportsman models, if you've seen them before, I'll make a picture maybe right here and you can see what I'm talking about. But those had the big cage and the springs and all those things. These are a little different. These have a series of 8 weighted rollers around the outside, and the physics and the magic that push those out is what changes your gear ratio on this as opposed to that big heavy spring. So much different design, which a lot of people don't like because they don't understand that when they hear something that sounds like an engine rod knock, it's actually that clutch. This thing's been knocking for going on 10, 12 years. Look, it runs fine. It's been running fine. It's just this clutch. The phone made a text message over there. So as much as we have enjoyed having the chicken hawk in the family, it's not been without its problems. To get into that, we're going to have to get it up in the air, get a couple of wheels off, and we can show you what I'm on about. So we're going to start on the left side of the machine just to show you a better view of, the sway bar here. And what's strange is the spring sometimes rubs on the shock casing. Don't really know why. And they mounted the lower sway bar in link to the, to the lower shock mount. That's okay. The upper A-arm, this is just a single piece of stamped steel, which overall doesn't really look all that tough, but they've never bent or broken, so they're okay. The brake is also on this left side instead of the right side. And again, single disc, and it works just fine. Getting up to the front mount of the lower A-arm may be kind of hard to see, but you've got basically 2 plates of steel here that hold the A-arm in place. Now originally it only had 1, and the lower A-arm mount where it attaches to the frame actually ripped off of the frame here at the bottom. Polaris must have known that this was a bit of a design flaw and a defect, because for 2007 this lower subframe piece came with 2 layers of steel here for the A-arm to attach to. And so that's what we did. We replaced it with a 2007 model lower subframe. Yeah, this completely just ripped itself right off of the subframe. Now coming directly to the back, you have this other piece of stamped steel frame member, and it seems fine, but if we get in close, you'll see a bit of a weld right about there. That had also completely cracked and came apart. Just welded it back, and it's been fine since. At some point, I'm probably going to try to replace that while the parts are still available. Now, onto the right side of the unit, you can actually see how small this transmission is compared to some of the bigger Sportsman models. But notice how much shinier this hub is compared to the other side. And that's because the original one had cracked right across here, and I didn't even notice it until we put the new tires on about 1.5 years ago. Unbolted it, and the hub came off in 2 pieces. So had to replace that. This is a factory Polaris part. It looks like they redesigned it. You can see it's got these extra, I don't know, ribs here. If we go back to the other side, you don't see that. See, on this side, the design's a little different. And they do use the same part for both sides. It's not a different side for right and left. You can see how here it mounts to the disc brake rotor. And I'm assuming that because this one is bolted to the disc brake rotor is probably the only reason why this one didn't crack. And again, on the newer one that was replaced, you can see the same disc brake mounting. Like I said, this same part is used on either side. It doesn't make a difference what side it is. One more issue that we had is the linkage for the gear shifter where it connects here. It's a plastic clip, and that had broken, so that had to be replaced as well. Up here in the front, no issues to report. The front end's been perfectly fine, but you can see these huge air ducts they have right here because, like I mentioned earlier, this unit is air-cooled instead of water-cooled. So you don't have an overheating problem. You don't have a water pump seal that's going to go bad on you. So that's kind of neat. Now on to the question that inevitably somebody's going to ask, how fast does he go? Look, it's just a little 300. It's a little over 500 pounds. It has a very inefficient drive system that we're all used to with Polaris, and I believe this one's even more inefficient than some of the full-size Sportsman models. It's not fast. It tops out usually at about 40 to 41 miles per hour. I have seen 45 on a lake bed, possibly with a tailwind, but that's about it. It's not a speed demon. It's not meant to be. So now that we've had a pretty good walk around of the machine, let's see if we can get the old dude to fire up. I am expecting a bit of a fight because, well, it's been in the corner and not started for about 10 months now. Okay, well, first we're gonna reach way up in here and turn the fuel on, if I can find it. Oh, wait, there it is, way back up in here. There we go. Okay, fuel's turned on. And turn the key on. And I guess the only thing we really have left to do is pull the choke and a couple of pumps. That was a little sticky, so I'm a little worried that we might have a little bit of gummy. Well, let's smell the gas. Let's see how this smells. Well, the good news is it does smell like gasoline instead of, you know, something else. Let's go ahead and see if the old dude will fire up after 10 months of sitting in the corner. Wow, and there he goes. So he's idling with the choke on, and then now you can probably hear that clutch knocking. Yeah, I guess we should have checked the oil before doing this. Okay. So I'm just holding it just off idle till it warms up a little bit, and then we'll see if he'll calm down and idle for us. And I don't know if you can hear it. That little knocking in there, that is the sound of the clutch. there we go. 10 months sitting, and this old dude just never, ever quits. This little machine just never ceases to impress me. All right, turn them off. Just heard the clunk. Again, those rollers, they make some noise. Start them up again. Like it was just rode yesterday. And I'm not telling any fibs here. This literally hasn't been started since October of last year, which is the last time it actually went out riding. So this little machine is just simply amazing. You know, with all of the other full-size Sportsmans that we have, you know, we've got the two 570s. We had the 500 that we sold about a year ago, and a Ruby Sue. You know, people would ask, well, what would possess me to buy something like this? Well, at the time, I actually didn't have any Polaris Sportsmans. I was racing, and so I had my Suzuki LTR 450. I had an LTZ 400. That was kind of the sport practice and other sporty quad. But I was racing on the LTR, and at the end of 2007, I had decided that I wanted to pick up, you know, a quad for my dad, who was getting up on age even back then, and his health was starting to decline at the time, and he always wanted to go out riding. My mom had purchased the 500 that you saw in the other video. She had purchased that and thinking they could both just ride, you know, doubles on that, which, you know, you really can't. So I found this at the local motorcycle ATV store, and it was the end of 2007. It was in November, December, but this was a 2006. They had a bunch of them, and they were clearing them out. I think I ended up paying like $3,000 for this thing brand new, which was really cheap. It was on sale. I think they're normally supposed to be about $4,000 at the time, but I paid $3,000 for this thing new, and I just thought it would be perfect for him. You know, he could get on and off of it pretty easy because it's not as big as the big 500 was. And, you know, it's four-wheel drive. It can go anywhere. It's got the independent suspension, so it has a nice ride to it. Importantly, you didn't have to shift gears in it, which, you know, my dad used to race sports cars, and he used to drag race. And for him, he always preferred a manual transmission in his cars. But as his health was declining, shifting gears, he just wasn't really mentally capable of managing that anymore. So it was nice of the automatic, just put it in forward and go. It's not fast. It wasn't going to throw him off. And I did actually have a backrest that would attach to the rear rack on it. And I still have the backrest, but I had put that on there for him. So give him a little bit extra support on the back. And he rode it for, you know, a few years until he was just physically unable to. And then the thing sat for years. And then, you know, I moved out of state. When I came back, started getting back heavy into the riding, no longer racing, and pulled this thing out of the shed and got it running again, and have abused it ever since. But anyway, like I said, I had picked this up for my dad, whose health had already started to slip back in the 2006, 2007 time frame. And it was just at the time the perfect machine for him. Now you can tell by some of the things that we've seen, the scratches, the immaculately still brand new wheels. Yeah, no, they're pretty banged up. The underside skid plates are banged up pretty good. You know, we've ridden the crap out of this machine. And let me tell you something. It may be small and it may be underpowered, but it has done everything and gone everywhere that the big full-size Sportsmans have gone without any troubles. It's never really gotten stuck. We've never had to tow it out. It just goes. And I know it doesn't have a low range, but it has, I don't know, it's got some witchcraft in the transmission. I don't know what it does, but it goes into a mode that we call hawk mode. If you're going up a really steep hill and it just slows down, and you think it's going to stop, you think it's just going to stop in its tracks and not climb the hill anymore. Well, if you just leave your thumb in the throttle, it acts like it just finds another gear, and this is why we call it hawk mode. It just starts chugging up the hill, and it just won't stop, and it will clear any hill that any of the other bigger machines have done. I can't explain it, but It's an awkward machine for somebody my size to ride, so I never ride the thing except for to make sure that it's still working okay. But these days, you know, my daughter, she rides it. My son, he rides it. My stepdaughter, she rides it. Everybody likes to ride this machine. Everybody that rides it likes it. And it's just pretty amazing to me that this machine can do everything that it does, and it just doesn't quit. And you just heard it run, you know, after 10 months of sitting, it fired right up and idled pretty quickly. Look, this thing just doesn't quit. If there's any machine out there that can have the personality and the soul of something that doesn't ever give up, it's the Chicken Hawk here. I'm a firm believer that a car, a motor vehicle, unless it has a soul and a personality, is a pointless machine. And this thing has the most soul and heart out of any machine I've ever had. You know, and I think some of the attachment was that it was my dad's. I apologize for getting emotional there. You know, we lost Dad about a year and a half ago, and every now and then I think he makes his presence known. Yeah. La, da, 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 da. Oh, and I kind of pull it sometimes. Help. Hello and welcome back to Good Germs Off-Road Adventures. Y'all are probably wondering what I'm doing with the old Chicken Hawk back here. Well, just like the thumbnail suggests, we've got to make some frame repairs. And while we're at it, we're going to put a new cargo box on it. Stick around. Well, let's get started talking about the frame first. Well, you might remember from the review I did of the little quad what I'm on about. Back here, on this piece of frame right here, you can see there's a bit of a crack right there and a bit of a weld. That weld has been on that crack since somewhere around about 2013 or 14 or somewhere in there. And I think it's about time we do something to take care of that. Well, let's get started with just tearing this thing down. I'm hoping it's not too difficult. Don't know. Never done it before. I don't really know if there's a procedure to taking these things apart. I think we should start by taking out these sway bar end links. Don't know if we need to take the shocks off. Probably just the top. Probably don't have to take the bottom. Just take the top and swing it out. That's probably fine. And then it looks from there like we have 4 bolts, 2 there, 1 here, there's 1 on the front here. And it should come out, I think. And then we'll have to disassemble the sway bar out of the mount here and then reassemble for the new one. I guess we just get started. Well, that's got some sauce on it. Maybe we should squirt some jalebi in there. All right, so I just went ahead and took the wheels and tires off and pulled the rear shocks out, and that makes this a lot easier. Let's just go ahead and pull this piece of frame out and see what we're looking at. I guess there it is. And here's our crack with the weld. I mean, the weld's pretty good, but I think I just want to have, you know, a new piece of frame sitting in here. Okay, so now that we've got the old one out, we're going to go ahead and get ready to put the new one in. I didn't actually buy brand new. You can go ahead and buy a brand new part, and I think they're somewhere between $150 and maybe $200. I don't really know, but I figured, you know, this quad, she's a 2006. If I can find a good used part, why not put that on it? So that's exactly what I did. So here's the replacement part. I did go ahead and clean it already. That's the one thing they don't do, is they don't clean everything for you, but you know, they're good value. You don't want them to charge you more, do you? Anyway, so I went ahead and cleaned it up. Just some simple green. There was nothing too wrong with it, but you can see it is in perfect condition. And I got a super good deal on this just by going onto the, you know, eBay website. Having said all of that, let's go ahead and get the old one broken down and sway bar installed on the replacement. Okay, so this looks very simply like we just need to undo these 4 bolts and nuts, and then we can pop the sway bar, you know, off this and install it in this one. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. Once I figure out how to get in here, and these are 13 millimeter right here. Not sure if you're interested in that. Okay, let's see how difficult this is to get. Oh, it's not difficult at all. Okay, and that's it. This is the old bit with the nasty crack right here. Okay, off you go. Now, I'd kind of like to lube this up a little bit. Before I just sit this back in here. And I know it's just going to sit in here like this. But like I said, I'd kind of like to put some lube on that before I did that. It looks like the bushings don't turn in the metal, in the frame, but this turns inside the bushings. Let's go ahead and let's get some grease on it. Should we put some grease here too? I don't think so. Like I said, I don't think those turn. But grease here can't hurt, in my mind. And now that I'm looking at this, maybe we should clean this up a little bit. Looks a little dirty. Probably should be replacing these bushings while I'm at it, but I didn't think that far ahead. So we're not doing that. Just going to clean them up. I don't think they were loose, so we'll just clean them up and we'll say that we did it. Sure. Okay. So get a little bit. We don't need a lot. We just want to put some, just a little coating. That's way too much. Okay. I don't know if you're supposed to do this or not, but I'm doing it. In my mind, anywhere a bushing is going to rub on metal, it should be lubricated. So that's what we're doing. A little bit more on that. There we go. Put the lid back on. Perfect. Okay, so I guess we'll just go ahead and set this back in here. Put these back on. And let's just set this in there. That's how that goes. It's not fancy, you know, it's not complicated, which makes me happy. And then these just, you know, these just go back on here. That's pretty much that. Tip it back like this. Why not? Put these back on. Yeah, all right, let's just maybe not put it on all the way mode. All right, let's just run them in. And that should do it. Okay. So let's go ahead and put this replacement bit, you know, back in there. Thread count looks pretty similar on both sides. Best I can tell anyway, with these old eyes. I think this one needs a little bit more to be even. Okay, I think that's good. Yeah, let's put the tires back on and set it down. So now that we've replaced the frame bits on the little chicken hawk there, let's talk cargo boxes. So I like the Polaris, you know, the factory OEM Polaris cargo boxes a whole lot because they use the lock and ride, they fit, they look nice. They may not be as big as some of the other aftermarket brands like the Quad Boss. You may have seen that on the Big 500. We have that big Quad Boss, we still have that big unit. I like the factory OEM Polaris boxes. And they're really hard to find for some of these older rigs, especially the old Polaris Hawkeyes. But don't ever give up if you're looking for something. Again, on the eBay website, I found this. This is a brand new old stock. Is that what that is? NOS? Anyway, it's a brand new factory Polaris cargo box for a Polaris Hawkeye. And I've been watching these for a while and I haven't been able to find one for the last 2 years. Finally, the other day I was on eBay again and I happened to see a couple of, you know, places that had these. And I jumped on it. Got a screaming deal on this one. It did not come from Power Sports Nation. They don't seem to have any. It came from another place. Don't remember the name. That's okay. I'm really excited. Now you can tell it's not really all that big, but it is the factory unit. I mean, I love that. Anyway, let's open it up and see what's in here. Okay. Not a lot. The mounting hardware with some instructions. And well, that's it. Well, let's go ahead and see if we can understand on these instructions here. Let's set this back over here. Need a new blade because that was dull. Okay, so interesting. We've got an L bracket, a pin, a plastic bushing. There's a little bolt, split washer. There's a little nut. Here's a lever thing. It's a bigger nut. There's another little bolt. There's a strange screw. There's a rubber bushing. Another washer. Another washer. And another washer, but this time it's plastic. Now, normally I'd throw the instructions just over there somewhere, but I need to understand how this works. It says, it doesn't tell you how to do it, it just tells you the order in which, so this goes like that, and this goes in here. Okay, well, let's start from the bottom. So we're going to put this nut, we're just going to set it on there, and then this metal washer, let's see, number seven. Number 7 is rondelle fender. Rondelle fender. You know what? I think these are the French instructions. Oh, here we go. Here's the English. Fender washer. Well, what's number 9? Black nylon washer. Okay, so we do this washer, and then we do number 8, compression spacer. Yep. And then we do number 6, which is nylon spacer. Okay. And then we put it in here. And then we do the plastic spacer. And then we take this thing and we then put the screw, well, it goes in the little hole, and then we put the screw. Oh, come on now. My fingers are too big for this. Okay. Shit. Okay. Well, where did the little... Okay. I've lost the little... Oh, wait, there it is. I found it. Thought this was gone forever. Does it even fit in the hole? Yeah, it does. Okay. So line this up to the little hole. Let's put it this way. Line this up to the little hole. I said line this up to the little hole. Why aren't you... My hand... Come on now. Oh, there we go. Lined up to the little hole. Okay. Put the little washer, not washer, but the little lock nut, nylon lock nut on there. And that's how that goes. And then this just, bolts to the side of the, the box there. Well, I'm going to go ahead and tighten this up, find out what size that is and what these are, and we'll do the other one real quick. Okay, well, I'm pleasantly surprised to see that you can just tighten this little screw because the nut sits on a flat thing right there. And this is on the part that, pivots to lock it down. So we just tighten that screw up until we're happy with it. We just want to make sure we get some threads poking out the back side, but we don't want it so tight that it won't move. Okay, and then I did check the size. I'm super happy we have American sizes again. So this bottom one, 1/2 inch. And then these little screws here, these are 7/16. Okay, so let's set those to the side. We'll put this over there and we'll do the next one. Okay, now ideally, the box is just going to set right there. Let's see how this lines up. So this should just sit on here. Let's move this out of the way. There's a couple of little holes here that are threaded. Let's get them finger tight only, not even finger tight, just on there. Well, how do I, drop that. That came apart and that's fine. Okay. I just can't find, there, nope. Go in the hole. There it goes. Okay, and this is adjustable. Not sure why. That's okay. Let's do the other side real quick. Hello there. Okay. Didn't tighten those up, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set this down. And you can see that this is now sitting in them lock and ride holes, as they call it. And I'm not going to snug them, I'm just going to lock it so it takes the play out. And then I'm going to make sure it feels like we're even side to side. It kind of does. Maybe I should put a little bit more juice on these lock and ride things. I'll show you what I mean by that. So I'm just going to tighten this up a little bit. These don't need a lot. We'll start with just a little bit just to get it to where we can mount it. And then after we're all done, then we'll do them up. Okay, get it in the holes. Let's lock them down. Okay, of course it's loose because we have to tighten the things. We want this to be even, and we want those brackets to be straight. That looks pretty good. So now we just tighten them. Oh, just drop that. Okay. Let's get a little bit of thread showing, that may be too much. And you can see I'm using a ratcheting wrench. And you know, you can buy these at any store that sells them. Okay. Let's see how that looks. Oh. Indeed. It's got a little rattle to it, and I just think that's because it's only held on by, you know, one lock and ride clamp at each side, but I am not mad at it. It looks proper. I can open it, and now I have a boot that's big enough for things. Indeed. Hello and welcome back to Good Germs Off-Road Adventures, and welcome back to the shop and to the Chicken Hawk. We're going to get into some maintenance things. You know, we've got a big weekend coming up, a big camping weekend for my birthday in a couple of weeks. Lots of people are coming out. We need the other quads ready to go, so we're going to do an oil change. We're going to change the transmission fluid and the front gear case fluid because, quite honestly, I don't remember when that was done last, so that means it's been too long. But anyway, why don't you go ahead and hang out with us today as we go ahead and do these things. Stick around. So first thing, let's go ahead and get the dipstick pulled for the oil. And the dipstick, it's down there, but quite honestly, the easiest way to reach it is through the fender well, right there. It's much easier to stick your arm in here next to the tire and get it from here. And it's just a short little dipstick. And well, that oil, it looks dirty, but it's full. That's all that matters, right? That the oil's full. It doesn't have to be clean or good. All right, next we got to get the drain plug out. And I believe that to be an 8 you know, 8mm Allen wrench size. So let's see. I'm going to guess this is an 8. No, that's a 6. How about this is an 8? Nope, that's a 7. Okay, then that must mean this is an 8. Yep, that's an 8. Okay. Okay, well, funny story. It's neither a 8mm 7 or a 6mm Allen. It turns out it's a Torx. Torx T40 to be exact. I must have forgotten since it's been so long since I've changed it. But anyway, Torx T40, we're going to get under there, get the drain plug out and drain it. Ow. Okay. And I'm sure the oil's going to get all over the place, but that's to be expected. Oh, not too bad. Now that oil's, well, it's dark. But at least it's all there. Okay, it looks like it's still trickling out, but it's just whatever got on the frame, so we're going to go ahead and put this back in. And I do have a new crush washer on this. Always make sure to replace that crush washer. And yeah, I know the socket is still stuck in the end of the drain bolt. I guess that just happens. Okay. That should be it. I know there's a torque spec for this, but we just go by the German torque setting of guten tight. Okay, let's get some of that oil cleaned off of there. That's nice. And then we'll go get some brake clean and kind of squirt it up in there. There we go. You know, in case you didn't know, brake clean is like the shop version of Windex. It's good for everything. You know, I didn't realize this with the rubber glove on, but apparently when I whacked my hand against the frame or whatever, kind of got a little bit of a bloody knuckle, so we're going to go ahead and see if we can fix that. I've got a bit of a first aid kit here. Flexible fabric, clear strips, variety pack, flexible shear strips. Oh, there's clear band-aids. Let's see what's in here. Well, these are all big ones. I didn't do that much damage. Okay. Let's see. I think let's go with, well, let's just see what's in here and we'll probably use some of those. Well, that's going to have to do. It wasn't bleeding bad, and I just don't think I have the right kind of bandage, but it's fine. Anyway, where were we? Oh yeah, changing the oil. I already drained the oil. Oil filter. I think that's what we have to do next is oil filter. Let me see how we can get to that. Okay, so the oil filter on these Hawkeye 300s, it's, you know, sort of there. You can kind of see it behind this piece of frame here, and it's more on the right side, you know, of the machine, but you can't get to it from this side. And it would be easy if you take out these air, you know, the cooling things. It's air cooled, so the air's got to be directed towards the engine. If you take these out, it would make getting to that easy. But we're going to do things the hard way. But I have discovered if you come around to this left side and you lay down in a really uncomfortable position, you can kind of not see it up there. But if you lay down in an uncomfortable position down here, you can reach your hand up through here, and you can grab it, and you can twist on it and take it out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and take it out. And it looks like the last person who changed it, which is me, did not over tighten this. That's nice. What I don't remember is how much this leaks. I don't think it's all that bad, if I'm honest. Oh no, not bad at all. And then let's sneak it out of here, and there it is. Oil filter. Well, it's a good thing I didn't miss, because I wasn't really watching where I was pointing that. Okay. Now, just like, and I kind of stand up sometimes. Okay, just like when we changed the oil on old Ruby Sue, I went ahead and got a Wix for this. I think what I just took out of there was a Tusk? Yeah, a Tusk filter. But Wix 51, whatever that says, 51358, just for this. So go ahead and take it out. And this is the, the nice kind of Wix. Check this out. It's probably blurry, but that says Made in USA. That's always nice. Anyway, we're just going to put this back up in the same spot. We are going to go ahead and put the used motor oil right back on this. No, we'll put the fresh oil. We'll prep that properly. Okay. All right, I've gone ahead and prepared the filter. You can see a little bit of shiny on the, whatever that's called, the gasket. That's fresh oil. I promise I did not dip my finger in the used oil. Okay, let's go ahead and put this one back in here. And it's the same as when you took it out, just the exact opposite. So we're going to lay down here. Oh, get as uncomfortable as possible. And push ourselves away. Come on, roll it. Oh, okay. And snake this back up in the hole. And thread this in place where the old one was. Now, we did check the old one to make sure the gasket came off. See? Gasket's there. Okay. And then again, just do it by hand, If you do want it to never come off, just go ahead and cross-thread it, and it will never come off again, in case it's an ex-wife's machine or whatever. Hand tight, and that's it. There it is. Right there. Okay. So what's kind of nice about all the Polaris Eye. What's the plural for Polaris? Anybody know? Let me know what you think the plural is. Anyway, what's nice about all of them, the Hawkeye 300, the Sportsman 400, the new ones, the 5, they all take the same filter. Roughly. They all take the same oil. 5-weight 50 synthetic. You don't need to go spend $20 a quart on Polaris oil. We're going with Lucas today. This is 5-weight 50 synthetic Lucas. And it says right on there, side-by-side UTV, and U is synonymous with A, so ATV. Sure. Do make sure to consult your owner's manual. Don't take my advice, but all these quads, ATVs, four-wheelers that I've owned, Ruby Sue, the 400 over there, the Chicken Hawk, the little 300. Of course, I've got Dusty and Darth, the 2 570s. They all take the same exact amount of oil, which is 2 quarts. Nothing more, nothing less. And whoops, poured too fast. You pour this in too fast, it's going to come back out at you. Apologize if you're getting any wind noise or fan noise. I've got fans on here again because, well, it's 96 degrees in the shop today. Okay, that's 1 quart. 1 to go. Pour this one in a little bit slower. Okay, that's 2 quarts. She's full. Okay, and I've already cleaned off the little Dick's tip fill plug thing, and I'm just going to go ahead and put that back in. And we're not going to bother to check it, because unless it leaked out, it still has the same 2 quarts we just got done putting in there. Do not put pliers on that to tighten it. Just, you know, with your hand. It's good enough. Okay. So that's it for the oil change. You know, the oil change on this quad, it doesn't really get much easier than that as far as oil changes on quads go. I guess some of the older 3-wheelers and ATCs might be a little easier, I suppose, but for modern day quad, it doesn't really get much easier than that. I say modern day, this rig's 18 years old. Yeah, anyway. Oil's done. Now we're going to move over to the, I say let's do the transmission next. Sure. Okay, so both the drain and the fill for the transmission are on the same side. They're on this side, left side or driver's side of the quad. You can get to it without taking the wheel off, but it's just a lot easier if you do. So we're just going to go ahead and take the wheel off real quick, and you'll be able to see these plugs here pretty easy. Well, I lied about the pretty easy part, but it's still easier to get to it without the wheel in the way. Let me show you. Okay, so here, where my finger is, there, this is the drain plug, right there. And then the fill is, well, is there a way to, there it is, right there. That's the fill, right there. Now, if you're not changing the fluid and you just want to check it and top it off, you only open that fill plug, and the fluid level is supposed to be right to the bottom of those threads. So basically, if it comes out at you, it's full. If it doesn't, it's not full. So we're going to go ahead and take the fill plug out first, and then take the drain plug. I think I'll move my extra professional catch can here and move it underneath the transmission. There we go. Lined up. More or less. Okay, sure. All right, well, let's just go ahead and I guess start removing plugs. So the instruction manual, it does say what size to use. It says 15 millimeters, and it says wrench. And it's oddly specific to say wrench versus socket versus whatever, but I can see why. You know, if you look there, you just don't have clearance. There's no clearance. You just don't have clearance between that fill plug and the back side of the lower control arm, and the frame also kind of sticks out a little bit, so you really can't get a socket unless you've got a really thin socket, and I don't have one. And you also can't get a ratcheting wrench on there because they're typically flat. They don't have any curve to them, or bend, if you will. So, you know, wrench it is. So we're going to try to get a wrench on this and sort it out. Oh, good. It just spun right off of there. That's what you want. Can I get it? And the frame's in the way. I can't even get it right there. All right, well, let me put the camera on a tripod or something. Maybe I can get it from up here and, oh, maybe, oh, there we go. Broke it loose a little bit. Did I break it loose enough to turn it? Oh yeah, there we go. Come on, baby. I would say this is a bad design, but you know, what are they supposed to do? There's not a lot of options when it comes to doing this. This isn't like most plugs where you get them broke loose and they come out easily. This has some bite left in the threads. And I just dropped it in there. Groovy. Okay. Okay, this one, you can put a socket on it. And it's also 15 millimeters. That's nice. And how can I, okay, if I do it, it's not loose yet. Well, I caught the bolt that time. And that stuff is dark. And it's going to make a mess right on the frame, isn't it? Maybe not. Yep, there it goes. Okay. Wonder how much metal's in there. That's a scary thought. Now that that's almost done, we're going to go ahead and put the drain plug back in. There we go. That'll do. Let's get some cleaner and clean that up a little bit. That is shop grade Windex right there. So the fluid you have to use in these transmissions is the Polaris AGL, and it takes this one about 20 ounces, I think it says, and this is a quart, which is 32 ounces. That's plenty. However, this is a partial quart, and I've got another partial quart, and I've got a full quart. I don't know what AGL stands for, but I'll tell you what I think it stands for. Annoyingly expensive gear case. Annoyingly expensive gear case. Annoyingly expensive gear case. I don't know what AGL stands for or what it means, but I'll tell you what I think it means. I think it means annoyingly expensive gear case lubricant. It's like 20 bucks a quart for this. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and put it in, and I'll show you how I go ahead and do that. I've got a bit of a bendy funnel that works pretty good for it. I'll just put that in the hole there, I think. Yeah. Can I get to it from this side, maybe? Nope. Yeah, okay. Get the hands in there. Nope, that missed. Well, can you just get in the... Okay, well that doesn't fit great. I'm sure that's just going to leak everywhere because I don't think that's in there. Okay, so the bendy funnel didn't work, so I'm resorting to a big syringe that I use for the front gear case, and I'll show you to you when we get there, but we're going to go ahead and feed this in. And we'll stop when it starts coming back out. That's how we know it's full. Which is not yet. There we go, now it's coming back out. So now we're full. And I did manage to fish the fill plug out of the pan there while you weren't really watching. Okay, that's probably good enough. Let's go ahead and put the plug on and try not to drop it back down into our super fancy bucket. Lovely. Okay. Does anybody know or seen what I did with the wrench? Oh, here it is. Okay. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Slip. Okay. Can I get it? Nope, I already know that answer. Okay, that's pretty snug that way. Now let's try to get a bite on it this way. Can I even get... No. All right, Polaris. Do you want to leak? There we go. That looks good. All right, so let's just go ahead and clean up the mess here. There we go. Well, that's it for the transmission. That's 2 out of 3. On to the next. So for the front gear case fluid, the instruction manual to the Hawkeye here, it's fixing to lie to us. Now it says the drain, no, the fill, it says the fill plug is an 8mm, Allen wrench, and that's correct. It is an 8mm. Say that 10 times fast. I'm not gonna. It's an 8mm Allen. That is correct. The drain, however, it says 11mm. I'll show you. Right about there. You can't see it. It's not going to focus. Anyway, so the book says it's 11mm. You can be a little wrong or you can be a lot wrong. It's a lot wrong. It's not 11mm. Sorry. The wife, she made an order on Element once. And for doing that, they sent her these cans. These cans here. They got some bite. Anyway. I'm just trying to stay hydrated. Anyway, it's not 11mm. Not even close. Not 12. It's not 14. It's not 17. It's 19. Polaris. 19mm. I don't know how that's a typo, but it's... Anyway, we have a 19mm wrench. We're going to get under there, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here on the front of the quad, right there, can you see it? There. I'll circle it because I can't use both my hands, but that plug, that's the 19mm, not 11mm drain plug. And then, of course, around on this side, you've got right there, that's the 8mm Allen fill plug. So I'm going to go ahead, put the camera on a thing so it can, do the thing without me having to hold on to it. And we'll drain it and then we'll fill it. All right then. Oh, that's not even tight. Or it wasn't on because I can't see. Nope, it just wasn't all that tight. Okay. I think this is guaranteed to get all over my fingers here. Maybe we'll put a glove on. Okay, I want you to remember that color. And also look at the mountain of crap on that drain plug. Yeah. Now it's cleaned off the magnet there. Wow. This is probably years overdue. I don't think. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take that fill plug out. That way we can make sure we got everything out of it. Okay, since no more came out, I'm going to assume that's it. And we're going to go ahead and put this drain plug back in. There it goes. All right, grab my 19 millimeter wrench and tighten it back up. There we go. Let's get some, sorry, I just bumped you there for no apparent reason. Let's get some cleaner in here. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to use the same syringe that we used on the purple transmission fluid, you know, the extremely expensive gear case lubricant. I've gone ahead and cleaned it out real nice, and we're going to use it on this fluid. Now, this is the Polaris Demand Drive fluid is what this is called. Again, it's expensive fluid. Now, this supposedly only takes 5 ounces. It's the same kind of principle. Stick that in there, and you just put it in nice and slowly until it comes back out. Now notice, if you remember the color of the stuff when it came out, look at the color of it going in. Whoops, that was not 5 ounces, and it's already spitting because we went too fast. Okay, slow it down. And it's just all coming back out. Good thing is, I guess you can't overfill it because it'll just spit out what it doesn't want. We're just going to put some more. There, it looks like we have a steady stream coming back out. So we're just going to stop there. And let that finish leaking. And then we'll put the drain plug, or the fill plug back in. And once again, we'll just go to the German torque setting of Guten Tight. There we go. Perfect. Oh, let's clean it all off, yep. Especially since we went ahead and got it everywhere. Oh no, it's empty. Do I even have any more? No. I'm out of shop Windex. Well, I think this is probably enough. Oh wait, it's still going. It's still going. Okay. There we go. Get all that out of there. So like I was saying, you saw the color of that stuff coming out in case you didn't see it going in. That's the color of the fluid. Oh, it just poured it all over my shirt. That's nice. Anyway, you can tell the color of that fluid is a nice, clear, golden, apple juice-ish color. What came out? Well, it was black. There was a lot of metal in there, so I'm going to be a little honest. You know, I like doing maintenance on things, but in all truthfulness, I don't remember ever doing this for the old Chicken Hawk. I don't remember ever doing transmission or front gear case fluid, and I hate to admit that to you all in public, but hey, got to be honest. So I guess we're lucky that nothing has failed on this old quad here, and it's been ridden hard. Not recently, but years ago, it was ridden pretty hard. You probably tell from the skid plate the way that thing looks under there, but four-wheel drive, all of it, and it's never failed, never broken. So I guess we're just lucky. We've got new fluid in there, so it should do pretty good now. Hello there. Welcome back to Good Germs Off-Road Adventures. Welcome back to the shop, and welcome back to the Chicken Hawk Polaris Hawkeye. Got a couple things we're going to do today. One, we got to change the belt, and then secondly, the choke is stuck. Anyway, stick around. We're going to get into it. So like I just mentioned somewhere around 20 or 30 seconds ago, we've got to put a new belt on the Hawkeye. I managed to find one of the OEM Polaris Pure belts, and well, the choke is stuck. And when I mean stuck, this is what I mean. It doesn't open. No matter how hard you wiggle on it and jiggle on it, it will not do the choke thing. Now, even though the choke doesn't want to come out, the quad ATV four-wheeler, it runs fine, but as you know, these carbureted Polaris, whatever the plural for Polaris is, the carbureted Polarises, they're cold-blooded. They don't like to start when they're cold without the choke, so it'll run just fine if you choke it with your hand on the intake, and then once it warms up a little bit, it runs just fine. But that's not, you know, correct to have a choke that doesn't do choke things. So we're going to go ahead and get into this right now. For the belt, we're going to have to take off that footwell. I don't think the fender needs to come off to get the belt off. I think I've had that clutch cover off before in the past. However, to get to the carburetor, which is sort of there, the plastic does need to come off. And well, technically it doesn't absolutely have to come off. It just makes it a lot easier getting at that carburetor because we got to pull it out so we can access the choke where it enters the side of the carburetor, get it freed up, and then put it back together. I'm just going to go ahead and set y'all up. We start tearing this thing down. Yep. Oh, there it goes. Okay. There we go. Yep. Now the most awkward airbox lid in the world. Oh, that air filter is dirty. That's going to need a cleaning before it goes back in. Yep, that's fine. We've got a bunch of them plastic body rivets. Well, this one's missing parts of it. Huh. Okay, somebody must have kicked it with their boot. Now right down here in this hole in the rack here, there's a screw. You don't want to forget that and end up breaking something. And what else holds this on? Bolt there, and then one up through the bottom there. In there. Yep. And if I was guessing, I don't know how much of this quad is metric versus American. However, 10 millimeter is an exact fit for that. So, you know. I think mostly these Hawkeyes, I could be wrong, but I do believe that these Hawkeyes were pretty much made in Japan. Like I said, I could be completely wrong with that assertion, you know, statement, idea, if you will. Well, are you all the way out? I don't know. How come I'm not using the electric ratchet? I don't know that either. I prefer it. So I have no idea why I'm not using it. We should probably do that. Okay. Now, there we go. Okay, now what? We've got a bolt here, and a bolt there, and then I think it does a pivot and out. Oh, there's a bolt here too. They look like more of the 10 millimeter varietal. Okay, Now what? This should be nearly loose, but the air box is actually part of the rear fender assembly. So, oh, this has to come off too because it goes down through the, dang it, I forgot about that. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Oh, and these are a bugger because we've got exhaust here next to it, and I remember this. This is the not so fun part. I'll get you down here and show you what I'm on about. So you can see right here, this rack support goes right through the plastic right there. So you have to undo here. And this side's fine, not a problem. But this side has an exhaust in the way. And I do remember a way to get in there. The bolt is here on this side, and I think I just snuck a wrench kind of alongside there, and well, you know. I'm just going to go ahead and knock that out real quick, catch back up to you. All right, I got all that out. So we got the grab bar comes off now. And this is not, you know, this wasn't originally on the quad. I added this. I mean, it's a factory Polaris item, but I thought it was neat, so I added it. Found that on the eBay website. It was all of like 20 bucks or something. Anyway, and then now this should be able to just lift out as it has done. Now, the entire rear plastic is loose. Let's not forget to disconnect the brake and tail light. Yeah. Oh, why doesn't it want to? Here we go. There we go. That's disconnected. And then finally, we just have to loosen up the boot that connects all of this to the back of the carburetor, which is why it's just easier to go ahead and remember your words. And then after you've remembered your words, it's easier to just go ahead and take this rear plastic assembly out completely. Because while the carburetor's sitting literally right here, easy to get to, there's too much stuff around. But now this should just pull right out. Oh, and there's a breather hose here for, you know, crankcase ventilation. Pop that off, of course. We don't want to tear it. There we go. There we are. Lovely. Where am I going to put this now? Let's just put it over there. Okay. Plus we need to take the air filter out. As you can see, the air filter's there, and it's quite filthy. But I might have to pull this bracket just to get it out of the way. Let's just do that. 10 millimeter, 10 millimeter, a couple more 10 millimeters, and 2 on this side. Pull this bracket out that holds this bodywork in place, and it actually holds the seat in place too, but we'll take this out, and that should allow these things to move, and then we can get that carburetor out. And a screw there, which oddly is a Torx. And if I had to guess, it's going to be a Torx 25. Let's see. Oh yeah. Very good. Now this should come out as it has done, which then loosens these things up only slightly. Oh, what did I usually have to do here? Ooh, the gasoline doesn't smell too bad in there. Okay, if I can get this out, if I can remember how to get this out. Oh, I see. Put the cap back on the gas tank. I think I can just loosen the boot at the bottom and this will twist out of the way. Just a little bit. Now this should pivot back. Like that. Very good. And now there's enough room I can get at the carburetor, and this one can stay where it is. Yeah. I think let's just pull the carburetor loose. I don't think your view over there is very good. Let's correct that. There it goes. Okay. I've got the carburetor just kind of twisted around and out here so you can see it. This is the throttle cable, and here's the choke. I'm going to do my best to show this to you, but like I said, I can pull the choke cable, nothing happens. So we're just going to pull this boot back, and first we're going to try the 8mm wrench here to see if it'll break loose from the carburetor body here. Now, most of the time that doesn't happen. And as you can see, that didn't happen. So what I've done is I've made myself a special motorcycle carburetor choke tool. It's just a 12mm wrench that I've ground down and made thinner and put a hole in it. So now I can put that on there and you know, crack it loose. And there we go. Because otherwise, any other normal wrench won't fit between that thing that's choke, whatever you call that, and the carburetor housing. And at best, you might be able to get something on here and get no turns on it at all. So anyway, this seems to work pretty well. Quad Logic makes a tool for this, and it looks like a socket that's been cut open on the end, welded to a stick. And I almost bought it, but they're $30. You can get them on the Amazon website. And a lot of people complain about them breaking. All right, so now here's our choke. Whoops, now let's see. Oh, see, it's not stuck here. The cable itself is stuck. So, now what? Well, now we need to find out what's going on with the cable. Well, I went ahead and just pulled the whole choke cable out. And there's a nasty kink right up here, right where it comes up to the top of the handlebars, and I'm wondering if that kink is what's doing it. I'm going to try to straighten that out. Does that do a thing? There we go. Well, it's moving now. It's not great, but at least it does work now. I don't have any actual cable lubricant, so I think, but I need to see if I can get this a little bit more unkinked. I mean, it's working now. The more we work it, the more it works. I think what I'm going to try to do is squirt just a little bit of motor oil, because that's what I have available, you know, down inside the cable somehow, and then maybe I can just work it back and forth and get it to, I don't know, we're going to try it. So what I've got here is just some 1540 diesel motor oil, and we're just going to see if we can get some down in the cable there. You know, those old 97, 98 500s, Captain leans a lot, Captain no brakes. The Speedo cables in those were a bit dry, and I used this to lube them up. Worked pretty dang well. I just got oil everywhere. All right. I don't really know if this is going to work. Maybe we hold it down here and work it. Well, I wonder if I should take this assembly off. Yeah, let's do that. Just pull the spring back, take this guy off, take the spring out. Let's take this piece off for no reason. There we go. Now, there we go. Now we're really working it down in there. And they do make cable lubricating tools. We don't have one of those. But I can tell you that feels way better. Perfect. Okay. And I think what I'm going to do is not reassemble this end until I've routed this back through the, the thing. Man, that's way better. That kink right there, that must have been it. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and route this back through, and then we'll put the end back on it and put it back together. So putting this back together, you've got to first, oh, I just dropped the spring. You've got to put this back on here first. And I like to tighten these up on each other a little bit. There we go. And now I need to find the spring because I have dropped it. So make sure the cable's pulled as far out as it can go. And then we're going to put the spring in its place. Kind of hold the spring back with our fingers, and then put that back on, and then there we are. And then now the choke. Yep. And that crunching you hear is just the spring at the end. That will go away once we put it back in the carburetor, which we'll do, right now. Here it is. Make sure you seat that in. Push that up. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to get that started, and that's only because, well, that thing inside is typically trying to push it one way or another. I'm just rambling. You don't have to pay attention to me. Okay. There we go. Good enough. Put this back down over it. And then now does it work? Yep. Perfect. All right, so now we have the carburetor back in, sort of, there. Put this piece of plastic, back where it goes. A little bit of a fight getting it to hook up in here, but I think our choke cable is going to be in better condition now. So now we're going to get into the belt. For the belt, we have to take off the right rear wheel. Sorry, left rear wheel, driver's side, and the footwell. And I've already sort of done that because the tire's there instead of here. And then, of course, the footwell is over there instead of there. So now we just need to take all the bolts from around here off, and like everything else, looks like 10 millimeters. Okay. I'm just going to use a baby impact on it. Oh, that works lovely. There's a lot of them on here. Give it to me. Well, why? I've got all of them off. I sure do. Maybe it just needs to be persuaded a skosh. Maybe some gentle love taps. There it goes. All right. Now we can get a look at this very weird looking clutch that's here. And it is a weird clutch with rollers. They knock, they bang, but it does work. And then also we're getting a look at the filthy inside of the cover and a bearing right there that doesn't have any play in it. Seems okay. That bearing actually sits on this shaft. I'm going to go, before I put that cover back on, I'm going to probably vacuum it out. There is an O-ring. It's still there. That's fine. So we just need to get this belt off and put a new one on. Shouldn't be all that hard. All right, we should be able to just maybe walk this off as we turn it. Maybe. Oh yeah. This belt has some stretch in it. Ow, that was just my finger. There we go. There's our old belt. It's got some cracks in it, but nothing bad. But I just believe it was starting to get a bit slippy. Where's our new belt? Oh, it's over here. Okay, is there any way to compare part numbers? Polaris 32-1108, 3211108. Oh, 3211108. Okay, so we have the same part number. Lovely. That's always nice when you get the right part. Now the question is, can we easily get this on? Or are we going to have issues with it like we did when we did the belt on Billy Badass over there? I don't know. Might have to spread this thing a little bit. Oh, it won't. Yep. Might have to take the bolt out, similar to the Arctic Cat, but we're going to see if we can just spin this on. We're pretty close. I think we might make it. Maybe. Maybe not. We're almost there. There we go. There we are. New belt installed. Well, that wasn't too bad. I'm going to go ahead and put this back together. I'm going to go blow out or clean out that clutch cover, and then we'll just get it mounted back up in here. All right, and for putting this back on, it's pretty much just the exact opposite of taking it off, minus all the racket. Do have to get that lined up on that bearing. There we go. And then I think you just give it a tap. There we go. So now we're all lined up. There's a couple of places where there are dowels to help you line it up. Plus you have that bearing in the middle, so it's important that it goes on. And when you go to tap it back on, don't use anything big and heavy, just a little dead blow. That's all you need. All right. And I just realized I forgot the ones that have clips on them. That's great. Real quick, I'm going to show you something with this footwell that if you didn't notice, you might have broken something if you didn't notice when you went to take it apart. Let me show you. Inside the fender well, you've got a couple more of those body clips that go there, and you don't really see them from the other side. I'll show you. They sort of go there, and that sticks kind of in there like that. Not quite. It actually goes behind it like that, like that. But if you miss this when you go to take it out and it fights with you, you know, double check everything. Otherwise, you'll yank on it, you'll end up breaking some stuff that's fairly expensive to replace. You know, these OEM Polaris parts are not cheap, especially for a Hawkeye, because they only made these things for a few years. I'm just going to go ahead, get this fender well put back in. It's just more body clips, 2 bolts there with a nut on the bottom side. And I guess we'll start putting the rest of this thing back together. Hello, we are just putting it back together. As you can see, we've got plastic, box, rack, side panels, all that's put back on. We're just putting the air filter back in, and I did go ahead and clean the air filter up real nice, oiled it. Didn't bother to show you all that because I think I've done that before and there's nothing much to it. And now for the world's most awkward air box lid. Okay, is that right? Nope. 3 tabs down in the back. Okay, the clips in the front don't make sense. Okay. Okay, there's that one. I think a little, there we go. Lovely. And then finally, El Cedo. Perfect. Now we can see if it starts with the choke. Oh, well, the choke works. That's nice, but we got no juice. And the reason for that is we got no battery. The battery's sitting over there on a charger, and it's not doing well. So I think what I'm going to do is put the quad back on the ground, because it can go on the ground now. And I think I'm going to put the battery in it and then probably jump it with another battery to make it run. That sounds like a plan. All right, so what I've got here is obviously the battery's back in. We've got it hooked up to some jumper cables. One of the old batteries out of the truck over there, the F350. You know, I had replaced the batteries in it not long after I bought it. One of the batteries had a dead cell. The other one was fine, so I kept the one that was fine. Anyway, now we can see we've got juice, a couple of pumps. Let's see if she's going to start. Oh, right away. I have never had an issue with this thing not wanting to start, except for when the battery's dead or when the choke is stuck and won't pull. Anyway, well, that was successful. I think let's disconnect the jumper cables after it warms up, and we'll run it around the yard for a moment, make sure the belt's going to do belt things. Well, okay. Sure. Well, I mean, it works. Look, this thing's never been a powerhouse, but it seems like the new belt is helping it, I don't know, move quicker. Nothing like touching the reverse rev limiter. You hear them clutch rollers kaplank. And dead battery. Wonder if we could pull start it. Oh yeah. Well, it wasn't fun, but it did start with the backup recoil starter. Well, I think that's going to do it for today. You know, we did get the belt changed. That was nice. Unstuck the choke. Thankfully, it was not in the carburetor. It wasn't gummed up. It was just something with the cable. Got that fixed. Not too difficult. I still need to change out the switch on the handlebars that operates the LED light bar on the front. And it needs a battery. And then once we do those two things, put a battery in it, I think we're going to go ahead and let this thing go on down the dirt trail to another family. Well, I hope at least one or two of you made it all the way to the end, even if you just let it play and run in the background. I appreciate you clicking on it. And as usual, you know, I really appreciate everybody that watches the videos, likes the videos, makes comments, and especially when they're encouraging comments. Somebody by the name of Southpaw something or other, I appreciate all of your encouragement and positive comments and words. Anyway, that'll do it. We'll probably do some more of this. You know, this thing right here, we've got something else to do to it. This might end up in a compilation video at some point. I don't know. But like I said, I think that's going to do it. Thank y'all for hanging out. Like, subscribe, share, comment. All those things are wonderful. And that'll do it. In the meantime, y'all ride safe. And we'll see you later. Bye-bye now.